Well, good afternoon. I think I'm probably the person suffering the most in this room today, as I live in a place which is far colder than any of you probably need to endure in your nice climatised lives here in Portugal. I live in Sweden and I work for a company called SWEGON. Just to give you an idea of some of the climates I have worked in, a few years ago I was on a HVAC conference called Cold Climates. It was in Greenland, and when I arrived they said, it's so good to see you here, welcome to our land. I said, oh my goodness, it's cold, it's minus 30. Yes, I know, they said. It's got a lot warmer now, spring has come. Last week it was minus 45, so. I say that as partly a joke, but I want to make a serious point about that. And in Scandinavia, we have a lot of HVAC manufacturers, probably a disproportionate amount of HVAC manufacturers considering how few people we have living there. But I think that is quite closely linked to climate. And we have to build and we have to ventilate in a way which is tight and is effective and given effective ventilation. We cannot afford to not do that. As you say, build tight, ventilate right, and that's been at the core of a lot of the building code philosophy in Scandinavia for a long time. We can't afford to have these wonderful naturally ventilated solutions that you can in the same way here. Although today, looking at this room, I think, yes, I'm going to leave it. I was asked to give a background as to why is SWEGON in iSERV, and I felt I needed to really give a little bit of the philosophy of SWEGON, but also at the same time get you to understand why it's important to do this continuous monitoring and benchmarking. So I hope you'll forgive me if you feel it's a little bit commercial, but I'm going to try and bring up the ethos of the company through that and give you the reason why I think it's important that I sit on the steering committee for this project. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, how many slides do you have?
I have about 60 slides.
Well, the first is 3 minutes.
That's okay. For some reason, Jose said to me, can you give me a sense of the history of the company? Well, I'm not going to go through it all, but basically the oldest one there is 1932. And that's somewhere up close to the Norwegian border, and since then we've got involved with other Scandinavian companies, but there is a little one there called Blue Box, which is an Italian chiller company, but otherwise we're pretty much Scandinavian based. But that is basically how SWEGON looks today. And this is where we have most of our manufacturing capability. As you can see, a lot of it is in Scandinavia, and then the chiller side in Italy, and we now have a small chiller factory in India as well to access that market. And the blue area is where you'll find us today. And for some reason, I don't understand why Greenland has disappeared off that map. I guess it's a snow out. Too much snow. But we've also got a lot of kit in Greenland, considering. Is this going a bit faster for you now? Is that good?
Yeah, no, it's good, yeah.
A driving force for us, I think, can be summed up in those 3 figures. That's what we need each day. And you look how much food we need, you look how much water we need, but by far and away the largest quantity of anything we need is air. And we're sitting in this room today and we're breathing this air in, and you know, I don't know about you, but I try normally to watch what I eat and what I drink and make sure I'm getting a good balanced diet. But I have very little control over the air I'm breathing. So that is something that we're very much focused on in SWEGON, and it's thanks to this guy sitting next to me on the filter side that we can normally make sure that our area is a little bit cleaner than it would be otherwise. If I'm speaking too fast, please say. This building here, anyone recognise it? Sir Norman Foster, fantastic world-class architect. This building apparently has 40 floors of hybrid ventilation, natural ventilation they call it, and is incredibly energy efficient. In reality, it's only 15 floors. And out of those 15 floors, if you try and get energy figures to show how that's working and how effective it is, good luck, because I've tried. And it's SWEGON's air handling units which are in there. They don't talk about those very often because it gets in the way of the hybrid ventilation side. Looking at this building and trying to get information from it was a real driving force for me to want to drive iSERV, because I want to get to the bottom of how it's working. I don't want to make Norman Foster look like an idiot. That's not my intention. I want to learn from it. I want to find out what's really going on so we can make it better next time. I'm not even against hybrid ventilation. I think it's a fantastic idea. But let's learn and see how we can do things better. So this, even though it's a fantastic reference for SWEGON, is also a fantastic reference of what is wrong with how we monitor buildings today. I just wanted to also show you a little bit about some of the stuff that SWEGON makes. And I'm not going to speak so much about this, but we take a lot of pride over the components, and we take a lot of pride in making sure that we can offer the best we possibly can at each level. But saying that, that isn't really where the key to the future success is. This is a hotel in London called SWEGON, and this has a waterborne climate system with air handling units, chillers, and it's all controlled and monitored. SWEGON sees it like this. We don't want to be a component manufacturer. We want to supply the solution. And we want to do that because we feel that only by looking over the entire solution can we really understand what's going on and give the customer the best results for the life cycle of that building or the system. So we have solutions in all different sectors. And this is what we're able to put together today. I don't know how well you can see that, but we are monitoring down to the room level, all the way up to all different zones, into the subsystems and into the entire system, and able to give the client a complete overview of what's going on with his HVAC system and how that interfaces into the building. So now I think you understand maybe a little bit better about why SWEGON quite likes the idea of iSERV. We've even gone a step further with one of our products recently, something called Tell Us. As you know here, in the mornings you have one side of the building which is getting quite warm and needs air conditioning, and on the other side of the building maybe it's still quite cold on the north side and requires a bit of heating. Well, if you're producing cooling, the off side of that, of course, is that you have heat. You need to reject it. If you eject it out into the atmosphere, what good have you got of that? Nothing. So if you use that heat to then heat up the cold side of the building, you've got yourself a win-win situation. If you've got anything left over, you could use the rest to supply hot tap water. We now have these systems installed in Switzerland and in Sweden, and we are starting monitoring them. And I'm trying to get the first one into the iSERV project at the last 11th hour. But we can't do this unless we monitor all the variables, so we understand what's going on. It won't work otherwise. Slow down. I want to give you just one case study. This is a building in Gothenburg in Sweden. It's not that north, it's on the coast. We have maybe -10 in the winter, not too bad. And maybe round about, it peaks at 30 degrees Celsius, maybe in the summer. It's an office building, and it's pretty typical. I would say most of you, I guess, work in some sort of consulting capacity, so I thought I'd give you a bit of information about how many of the people in that building should be dissatisfied, according to ASHRAE, or the ISO standard. About 10% they've gone for. And you can see that we're cooling with air and heating with water via district heating. And you can see also the temperature ranges and what we're allowing it to float between as well. And how we're also providing that demand-controlled ventilation through CO2, VOC sensors, of course temperature. And we have a fairly large duct size. So that gives you an overview of what they're trying to provide. These are the energy figures, and you see there you've got the ones in IP as well, but just ignore those. These are annual energy figures, and the one I'd like you to draw your attention to is after the first year, before it was even fully commissioned, the actual energy result was 36 kilowatt hours per metre square for the building, and they had a projected of 43, so they came in under what they thought they were going to use. For the total, with all the activities in that building, everything going on for this office work, they came in at 78. And they can do this because they can monitor and they can see what's going on at every single step of the stage in the system in the building. And if you look at some of the figures that Ian had just for keeping his building warm earlier, and he was quite happy with those figures, and of course they are old buildings which have been looked at in hindsight. But he was looking at maybe 100 kilowatt hours per metre square per annum, just for keeping the building climatised. But now, as you can see there, we can get down a far lot lower. Just want to leave you with that one there, really. So, thank you very much for listening to me. If you have any questions, or as I've been told to say sometimes, who has the first question, then I'm more than happy to answer them.